It's Emmett from Team Anvil. I am so stoked to bring this interview to everybody out there that's going to watch this today. This is Angry Sarge podcast 002. It was set to be 001. We kind of had a guy come on a couple weeks ago. No big deal. He's not going to hold it against me. But everybody give a warm welcome to our guy, Angry Sarge. And thank you for your patience. And look, real quick, Angry, why don't you go ahead and give everybody just a real quick shrunk down, like who you are, what your ethos is, like just give us a little taste.
One second. I'm trying to get this up so that way I'm dual watching. So give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I should have set that up. Okay, good. Got it. All right. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
So I was 101, by the way, my other channel. Just a heads up today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm just a dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. So no, just a retired Army dude. I retired last April, so about a year ago, and I've been in law enforcement, civilian law enforcement as well for 14 years. So I spent 21 years on the active side and the National Guard side, so I could be, civilian law enforcement and all that stuff, because I didn't want to do it full time anymore. I was getting burned out, deployments and other stuff. So it made my life hard. It ruined my first marriage and all that stuff. But that's a whole nother topic. But as far as me, I just a dude that's wants to help out other people and I guess be more than just a guy behind the screen or anything like that.
Sounds good, man. Well, let's kind of skin the cat here real quick. So for those of you that are watching this and that are going to tune into this, Angry Sarge, and we're going to get into it because some of you may be like, what's with the mask? What's with the name Angry Sarge? Why not his real name? Why not his real face? Well, we're going to get into all that. All right. But in the meantime, just kind of know if you need like a hook, to stay hooked in real quick. We're talking a real life war fighter and protector, a guy that sent it all around the world and in our streets here in America, not just to protect the world and the citizens abroad, but those here on our own soil. He's super humble dude. And I'm super stoked to have you on this interview, man. Cause I think what we're going to talk about, it's going to resonate with a lot of cats and definitely probably help. So,
yeah. So let me do this last plug. We do have a live show. My actual partner is Tactical Trash Panda. We go live twice a month on Friday nights. So if you just want to come by and just hang out, meet some different companies or different YouTubers or anything like that, come hang with us. I think last Friday we did EDC considerations.
Mm-hmm.
So just some thoughts, because everything's different, like your needs versus my needs, and what I'm going to carry is going to be different. So we just wanted to, I guess, give people some good tips and hear from other people as well. So
no, it makes total sense.
Angry Sarge, is it Angry _ Sarge? I can't remember. We may have to plug it or something like that, or my nerd.
You later. All right, let's get into it, man. So where did not Angry Sarge itself, but the dude underneath the mask, where did you come from, man? Like, where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was childhood like?
So I'm originally from New Jersey, believe it or not.
I did not. That's hard to believe.
Yeah. that's where I'm from. So I live in Texas now. I got stationed down here, so that kind of became my life because it's more free, should I say, than my actual birth state. So I grew up in some very bad environments, and I'm not going to call out anybody in that, but I grew up in the system. I was in foster care, I was in group homes, I was in institutions and things like that, which kind of led me to not have a positive role model or anything in my life. So I think when I look back on that, that's kind of what drove me to the army is to get that discipline, right? I couldn't think of any other place to get it. And I didn't know that I wanted to join the army. I actually had a scholarship to VMI and I turned it down because um, one of my abusers was a former drill sergeant. So I didn't know that I wanted to be in the army or anything like that. So it was kind of a last minute thing. And I joined and kind of never looked back.
So how does somebody like how do you think like what do you think was like your influence? So I know you didn't just like I mean maybe you did because you're a unique dude, but did you just like
Yeah.
wake up and like you just knew, oh man, I need to go to the army?
So no. So I think the influence that kind of guided me toward that direction was one, I was 18 and out of the system. Like I was no longer in foster care. So I was like, what do I do now? So one of the biggest influences I had in my life was my stepdad. He
Mhm.
was he was in the National Guard. He spent time in the reserves and active duty as well. And I actually took his last name. So it kind of, you know, made it. I don't know who my real dad is, don't care to know, but it was really cool to have somebody that I could lean on, that I respected, and um, I guess kind of steer me that way. I started off in armor, believe it or not. So I was in a the National Guard was trying to do something different. That's where I started off at.
Oh, whoa, time
Um,
out. Let's not get there yet. All
okay,
right.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So just all right. So stepdad was motivating
Yeah,
factor,
yeah.
and so what was high school like for you? Like you can.
Um, it was different. I was picked on a lot. Um, I was made fun of for being in foster care, and to the point where it wasn't just students; it was actually teachers.
Oh
That,
dang, really?
yeah, that were you know calling me out for not being with my family and all that stuff. So it's crazy things that you wouldn't think about. So I kind of grew up in this environment of people not really caring for me or anything like that. So it was a and it was violent at that point. I was getting beaten. I was um, being not only beaten but molested and other things like that. So it was like this big trauma package that my life came with. So it's interesting to see the turn that I took, and I think that's what made me who I am today. That giving me that strength of constantly being in these bad situations that kind of push me to be better and do better for my own family, my own kids.
Man. Okay. Well, we got deep real quick.
Yeah, it gets terrible, man. But you know what though? Being poor and not really having an option and being pushed the way that I was, I mean, I think it was a good idea. You know what I mean? It made me stronger. I'm humble about my beginnings and I, just a dude, you know?
Dude, I don't think it's crazy, man. And I say this a lot frequently. Dudes that volunteer to do extremely dangerous jobs always have some sort of
History.
yeah, man, and
Yeah.
it's not good typically.
But I mean, unpacking all that trauma later in my life really kind of gave me the understanding of why I became a protector. And I was like that in school. Like I would see kids get bullied and I'd go step in the middle and get beat up. I didn't care. I didn't want anybody to feel or go through what I went through, you know? So
Right. No,
it,
definitely. So you're getting ready to graduate high school. Like where in your high school career do you kind of like drill down on infantry? Or well, what job did you pick
But I
originally?
started off in armor.
Right.
So I was a mechanic, but they were doing like this test program where they were trying to make mechanics and crew members. I wanted to be a kilo, 19 kilo.
Oh,
So actual M1 crewman. And that's where I started. But they were like, well, we'll put this new program together so you'll not only know how to crew it, but you'll be able to work on it as well. So it's, I'd say, so when I moved down to Texas, I was 18. I was starting my junior year because the year I was born put me a year behind,
right.
or the month, should I say, not the year. Um, so I was coming down here, and with the change between how the North does their schooling versus the South, I was actually behind coming down to Texas.
Hmm.
So um, I was in like a special school for people that needed that assistance to get them pushed forward so they could graduate on time.
Right.
And that's when I joined. Like I saw my dad and what he was doing, and I'll call him my dad, just in case it's my stepdad. But I just want you to know that that's who it is.
Okay.
But I saw him, continuing drilling and things like that, and being there for us, and kind of I started asking questions. I was like, well, tell me about this. What is it that you do? And he was a tanker. So he kind of brought me into that armor side. And I was like, blow stuff up? Okay, you got me. I'm sold, right? I
On the
don't
way.
know. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So we'll just do it and see what happens. And that kind of pushed me into it. Was I finished my school, my junior and senior year, in about 6 months
Oh, wow.
through this special program. It lets you kind of work at your own pace. And I just did it on my own. I finished it in 6 months, but I enlisted about 2 months after I came home. So it was the beginning of 2000 when I enlisted, like March, and I came home in December to my mom. So living with my mom and my stepdad,
Right.
and
So just back up real quick. Did you so you decided to enlist in the army to do armor.
right.
Did you choose like full time, like active duty, or were you reserve?
No, so I was National Guard at that time because I
Okay.
didn't know exactly what I was going to do, and I didn't want to push into that realm where who knows where you're going to get stationed. You did back then; it kind of wasn't a choice because
It
the
was like
war,
needs of the army,
yeah,
right?
yeah, the war hadn't even kicked off then. So it was just like, well,
Wait,
you
what year are we in right now?
2000,
Oh, okay, dang. So
yeah,
like right before 9/11.
yeah.
Okay.
So I just that's where I put my start in. I left the guard. What was it? January of '03 is when I went active duty.
So
So
you were how old when you went into the guard?
I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you did like 4 years in the guard.
Um, no,
No,
not
like
not
three?
even not even three. I was close to three. So
Yeah,
2000 to 2003, but it was March to January.
mathing.
Yeah, it's okay. No, it's okay.
My brain's catching up. All right. So for most people that like know what the military is, they kind of understand the difference between the guard and reserve. For anybody that doesn't, and you're kind of like, hey, what's the difference? It's really about like one is full time and then one is like 1 weekend a month,
Yeah,
2 weeks
2 weeks a
a
year.
year, unless you're active guard reservist, and then you could do it full
Right,
time. But so
right.
you were like a 1 weekend a month,
Yeah,
2 weeks at the end of the year type guy.
just kind of trying it out, trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And
Right.
it's different too between National Guard and Reserve because National Guard, you're kind of stuck with the state. So if something happens, like, I've been to hurricanes and,
Yeah, natural disasters.
spent time on the border, doing counter drug and different stuff like that. So you kind of get called up and moved and mobilized. And another thing that a lot of people don't know is the National Guard gets deployed a lot more than even conventional army. As soon as the wars kicked off, it was just constant rotations.
So, okay, so what were you doing for like a full-time job after high school?
I worked at a grocery store, to be honest with you. It's like a
Produce?
what's that?
Produce department?
No, so I actually worked pushing carts. Like that was my first job. I was pushing carts, and then I wound up as a cashier. And then not long after that, it was about 3 months after working there, I was a manager already.
Oh, wow.
At 19 years old, I was a manager. So
Hmm,
so for that beginning time that I was in school, I didn't have a job. I just
okay,
did my drill stuff, and then once I finished school, that's when I started working.
gotcha. Alright, so now we're global war on terrorism
Yeah.
has happened, towers are down, like,
Yeah. So I
what
was
did Angry Sarge do?
I was actually in AIT when it happened.
Were
I
you
hadn't even
really?
finished. Yeah, I hadn't even finished because I was on delayed. So
That's right.
I went March of '01 to basic.
So were you like, "Man, I messed up, I shoulda went active," or what was the thinking for you?
So after the towers fell, watching my drill sergeants just run around with their heads cut off, um, and them telling it, "Hey, you're going to be infantry. You're gone. Everybody's packing up. You're going to be infantry." I was like, "Yeah, let's do something." So it took a little bit of time for me to get back and figure it out, but once I figured it out, and that's what I wanted to do, um, I think it was a couple months after I got back. So I got back in October of '01, and a couple months later, I was already starting that process to um, go active duty. And the cool part is I actually got to pick my unit
You
off of
did?
a yeah, it was off of a recommendation from somebody. They were like, "Hey, you're going to Fort Hood. What unit do you want to be in?" And I said, "If I can be in 17 Cav, I want to be in 17 Cav."
Why 17 Cav?
Because they have like a very prestigious history, right? We Were Soldiers, the movie. I saw the movie. I knew one of the civilians that worked on their tanks from General Dynamics,
Hmm,
and he was like, "Hey, this unit, they get all the new gear. They get because we were recon. We were recon for the whole division. So that's what I wanted to do." And I was like, "We Were Soldiers." Yep. And I met my best friend, which is crazy there because he was actually in the movie. And then he
oh,
went to
wow.
the unit. He was one of the dudes in the formation because he was at Fort Benning.
Mhm,
And that's where they filmed that formation at before they actually deployed to Vietnam. So
right. Okay, so you get back, you start, like, working the whole transition side, like, "Hey, how do I get from armor to infantry?" Get
yeah, that actually was a fluke. I was up for reenlistment, and I just got back from um, a deployment, and I was like, "What's next?" And they're like, "Well, we're gonna
so,
go ahead."
like, was that a CONUS deployment, like a continental United States one or
No, it was
overseas?
OCONUS. I was overseas in combat.
Wait, okay, so we're missing alright, so we gotta get back to that, right? Like, so
It takes a bit to get to that infantry. Just being from
alright,
one
so you're
deployment to the next, and then they're like, "Oh, you're going to Korea," and I'm like, "No, there's a lot."
well, let's stick with
So
your first deployment, alright? So, like, you get back from AIT and all that stuff for armor,
yeah.
and now you're getting ready to make the jump over the pond, and you're with the guard unit or you're with
No,
one
I
seven?
was active duty. I was in 17 Cav, which is First Cavalry Division on Fort Hood.
Okay, wow, okay, so talk us through that, like, what was the workup like for that deployment? What was the deployment like? Where did you go?
So first deployment was F2. That's where we went to Baghdad. Is what kind of prompted us to get worked up. But as far as getting trained up, we were just learning mount. So I think we had who was it fifth group came out and was teaching us mount before we deployed because they were seeing the pitfalls. They had just gotten back themselves because they were in three. So they came over and kind of taught us the lessons learned and all that stuff. So it was very interesting because it didn't matter what job you had, they were pulling people like to go do PSD stuff and um, all that. So for me, I got pulled from the motor pool because I didn't deploy as a tanker. They deployed me as a tank mechanic.
Okay. Oh, dude, you were busy.
Yeah. I got pulled from them to be part of the S5, if you know what
Oh,
S5 is.
yeah.
So the Civil Affairs PSYOP Special Forces Liaison Team, their little security detail that's attached to our brigade and our unit, our squadron.
So for anybody that doesn't know, like I was just thinking my brain just shorted out. I was like, wait, hold up. Um Mount, that's military operations and
Operations Urban
urban terrain,
Team. Yep.
right? So
Yep.
it's kind of like a big deal.
Yeah.
People get trained up for it. Okay, cool. So you're over there, you're a mechanic for armor. You're I bet you're turning wrenches like it's nobody's business.
Nope. I
No?
Not once did I turn a wrench. That's what I'm saying. I got pulled from that mission to be S5. So once I got assigned to S5, I got pulled into what they called Task Force 626 Baghdad, which we were hunting some nasty dudes like Sadr and Zarqawi and all those guys back when that was an actual thing. Um, so I would sometimes work out of Camp Slayer, if you know where that's at.
So this is what, 2003 into 4?
2004. This is
2004.
2004, 2005.
So when y'all came in to Baghdad, did you guys hit the green zone first?
No. So we were the first base. They used to call it Camp Falcon, and then it was like the first one that had like 30 or 40-foot walls as soon as you come in before you start going up to make the turn that goes into biop, and then you have the green zone split. So it was actually the first um, post that was outside.
So this is crazy, right? Like, and for people watching this, like me and Angry have not like talked about this, but I was in Baghdad from '03 into '04 with the 2nd Armored Cavalry Regiment, right? And we got extended for like the third time in
It's
April
crazy.
of
Yeah.
2004. But first cab, we had first cab that we ripped out with,
Yeah.
and they just got annihilated on Route
Yeah.
Irish. Was
Yeah,
that
we
your unit or was that at your sister unit?
no, it was another unit. I think the northern part. We actually secured Route Irish so well that we turned it from black to where it was green at one point.
Do you know what's crazy is that the whole entire time we owned that highway,
Yeah.
we took contact on it twice.
It's crazy, right?
That's it. And
And
then we ripped out, and then all
and
of a
it just
sudden,
yeah. So we lot there was a lot of civilians killed on that, like some Blackwater guys and stuff like that. So it was pretty crazy, man. It took the whole deployment to the point where they were talking about extending us for third ID, just our squadron to cover that whole route Irish from the beginning of Baghdad all the way up to Biop because we cleared it out of all the BS. But you're talking about putting a tank and a Bradley like every 100 meters, just all
yeah,
the way down that thing.
dude, we used to just send it because we had Humvees, right? So we'd redline all the way to Biop and
Oh yeah,
back, man.
oh yeah.
Like
Same.
doors open, war wagon
Yeah,
style, guns
it was
out the
this.
doors.
Yeah, it was the same with us. We lost, I think, 5 total that first deployment
Hmm.
on Route Irish. One was an RPG that went through the door and stuck into one of the guys, and we lost another one that was a Bradley crew member. Um, he was a TC, and they had a IED explode, and it went down through his helmet, his CVC, his crew helmet, and then a couple other stuff. I mean, just the normal
First cat got
EFPs.
hit hard.
Yeah,
I mean, like we got extended essentially because it was like, I don't know, like, you hear stuff when you're like, lower enlisted, and it's like, dude, but we ripped over to Solder City, and like it got taken back by the Mahdi army, like that. And before you
We
know it,
were part of clearing that out.
oh, were
Us
you? That
and
was
our
your
sister unit,
okay.
27. I mean, that was
That was a dogfight.
yeah, it was nasty. Najaf, I was in Najaf. Um,
When were you in Najaf? Because we were there with 237 Armor, the Dukes
we-
from first
so I was assigned to the PSYOP unit that was there. So it was around the April, May time frame.
$2,004.
Back when everything was blowing up.
Dude, we were literally there at the
Yeah.
same time.
It's crazy, dude. We got into a lot of firefights. It's the first time I've ever used a 203 on somebody.
So you were what were you, Camp Baker or Golf?
No, we were traveling.
Oh,
So we actually would roll up with not only the PSYOP guys, but the ODA team that we were with, and we just occupy a house and just
okay.
set security, and then move on to the next one.
Oh, dang.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like nomad life for quite some time. I mean, there was a point in time where we were out in the desert and we just circle up our vehicles and just dig a hasty,
Bro,
plop in it.
we had berms pushed up
No,
in the middle of the desert by engineers.
no, we didn't have that support, dude. We just dug a hasty and pull security. That's
Dude, I
about
got a
it.
funny story we can talk about after all this. Like, you'll love it. You remember the camel spider problems
Oh
out there?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
dude, I got a funny one for you.
yeah. I've dropped ordnance on a date farm because there's a weapons cache in there. Right, we're going
Mhm.
in. I happened to be the point man, and I walked in and I looked up and all around, and there was camel spiders all over the walls and ceilings, and right there was the cache.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
was like, nope, I'm out. I told him, hey, we need to do something else because I'm not going in there, and I don't think EOD is going to go in there. So
Nobody's going.
EOD, yeah, EOD came in, and they were like, all right, y'all can call in close air, and that's what we did. We dropped ordnance on it.
Those things are fast and
Yes,
furious.
yeah.
But all right, man. So you go to Iraq. Is there anything that like happened that first deployment to Iraq that you're just like it really stuck with you and like kind of changed how
Yeah,
you?
I kind of wish I sent you a picture. I've got a couple photos, one from CNN of me running with a little girl after we were hit. We were hit with 3 V beds and took I don't I don't know how many rounds of fire, but it was just massive. And at one point, one of the V beds that went off, the engine shot into her house and caught her house on fire. And I actually went in and got her out because the mom was like, missed him, pointing at the house.
It's a
She's
pretty
like,
famous photo.
yeah,
I already know what you're talking about, man.
yeah. So I'm running with her down the street while they're, you see blown up cars behind me and stuff like that. So luckily on that one, we had a medic go down. He didn't die, but he lost a limb. But 35 children were killed during that. It was what's that little village? I can't even remember. But we were
I'll
opening.
cut.
What's that?
I'll cut.
No, 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 no. It was actually in Baghdad. It was by I can't even remember the market. That was so long ago.
Was
But
it Martyr Square?
no,
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 I don't know. I was in like Sector 13 in Baghdad. That's when they had sectors.
yeah, no. We actually controlled it. So if you think about Route Irish and how it starts here when you're coming into Baghdad and then it does this big loop to Biop, we
Hmm.
covered everything south of that.
Okay.
So we had we had quite a massive area, but I was actually out there pulling security for civil affairs at the time because we're opening up a water treatment pump station.
Oh yeah,
So
that's what's up. Hey, let me plug this in.
sure.
I think my thing came unplugged, and it looks like I'm jaundiced, but whatever. Can't see. Boom. And just like that, we have power again. My bad, people.
It happens.
Had to relocate. I had to lift the package and move it, man,
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah. All right, cool. So, so you get through that deployment. You know, the big thing for you is like, hey, I went over as a mechanic. I got reassigned to S5. Then I got op-conned over to
A task force, like a big task force. So
and you're getting to literally live your dream in real life. Like I get to go out there and make a really big. You go from being a brush to a scalpel.
Yeah.
So that's really big. So what's it like? Well, before I ask you that, just to put it in perspective for people, like 2004 on in Iraq was a dogfight everywhere you went. So it's fair to say that you saw an insane amount of contact in combat. And
For
you're how old?
I think I was 22 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For a 22-year-old, you've been exposed to a crap ton of warfare, and now you're coming home.
Right.
What
was that like?
What was that like?
I will tell you the first time that I got drunk, which was about day 4 after we got put on pass. I was crawling around on the floor, and this is my ex-wife telling me this, saying, "Where's my weapon?" and all this and that. So, I mean, that's why I don't drink very much, if that makes sense, or drink to excess. I'll say that.
Right.
Because I don't want to bring up all the things that I've been through. That's a lot of demons. Even though I've unpacked a lot of it, it just stuff like that doesn't go away. You know,
No,
seeing dudes, and you know, just my first deployment, I killed a kid. You know, and it was all because he pointed a toy, which I didn't know, at one of our gunners, and I smoked it. You know. So things like that kind of bother you, and that's why I say just that photo alone is like what saves me. Like anytime that I hit like a dark spot where I think about that, and I think about when my son was that kid's age, I go back to that photo where I saved that little girl. You know.
Yeah, man. I mean, the unfortunate thing about, and even we saw this in Iraq to a degree, like, you know, there's bullhorns everywhere. There's prayer towers, speakers everywhere. And when it's a direction device, right? So pick up your arms, shoot at the Americans. And unfortunately, kids get caught up in that.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate. But, so we kind of skipped over you getting married to begin with. But so you got married
the first time. The first time.
You got married, then you went deployed, you came back home. And so now your wife is also like kind of seeing what war how it's affected you.
Let me tell you, she was freaked out a lot because every time something was on the news, I was there.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that they were showing something bad or major, I was there. And she's like, "I can't talk to you." And I said, "Yeah, because I'm gone. I mean, what do you want me to do? I have a satellite phone, but I'm not going to call you on it. I've got things going on. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, you know?"
Right.
So, yeah, it was rough for her. Very, very rough.
So you get home, you reunite with your family, you're kind of going through it at the same time. Like what's next in your career progression? Like what happened? Like you're active duty with the 1st Cav.
Right.
So you come back home and like, do you stay active duty and stay with First Cav
Yeah,
or?
so I'm with them for a total of 3 years is
Okay.
what I spent. And the reason why I left is I was up for reenlistment and I was up for promotion, and they said, "Well, you got to go to Korea." And I was like, "No, I just got back. Like I need some time home. I need some stabilization, right? I
Right.
understand deploying and going to combat, but to go to Korea for 13 months, I mean, come on. Send me back overseas. I'm okay with that, but not there, you know,
Right.
at this point. It's like the purpose. Like, what's the purpose of me going to Korea? I mean, just to sit at a DMZ? Because I know where they were going to send me. Camp Gary on, right there on the DMZ, you know?
Mm.
So, yeah, uh, I kind of made the decision not to reenlist, and I went back into the guard, and then I deployed for 2 years right off the rip. Right as soon as I
Really?
came, I chose infantry, and I deployed for 2 years. It was just,
I know. So
yeah.
where were you at? Where'd you deploy to?
I spent a couple years on the border doing counter drug, working with the border patrol
Okay.
and their special operations unit, BORTAC, and their SRT team, which kind of, what's that?
I said, so I don't know how much of that you can kind of go into, like what's declassified at this point, but like,
Nothing.
what did that mission look like, man? Like, what can
Um,
you?
so it was. I'll tell you what I did first starting. I was working checkpoints at first, and then I got assigned to the interdiction team, which, checkpoints was cool. We were just searching vehicles and getting a ton of dope and bodies and stuff like that. But doing interdiction, being down on the river, trying to keep them from crossing either dope or bodies, um, that was a whole different game. Like, I was shot at by the Mexican military crossing narcotics. Um, just it was crazy. Just all the stuff that you
Wait a
see,
minute.
and
Mexican Army engaged U.S.
yeah,
forces on the border.
yep.
That's crazy. Like we don't even hear about that either.
And you won't, but they did because they were bought by the cartels, man. So they crossed the dope to, you know, get it across and make sure it stays safe.
So you worked with border assets for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Is that what kind of like started leading you down the law enforcement path?
Right. Yeah, they actually wanted me to join Border Patrol, and the
Yeah.
actual agent that was in charge of the station um, kind of was pushing me toward that Vortex side because I have
Mhm.
the operational experience and I was working with them. But the problem that I had is the location. Like, I knew if I went Border Patrol, I wasn't going to get lucky to get north border work in Canada. I was going to be
Yeah.
stuck on the south, you know, and doing some of the things that they did, like living in fear, driving from the station back to the apartment, even though we had security guarding our um, apartment complex and everything. And I mean, real security. It wasn't none of this, we're going to pretend and wear a cop uniform or something like that. This was like dudes in plate carriers and auto weapons and stuff like that, protecting our assets. Um, just that fear, man. Going from just driving to the station to your place, you have to take a different like avenue back to the house because you never know if you're going to be followed, anything like that. And their reach is very big as far as the cartel goes. So,
Decided to pass on border patrol.
yeah, so I passed. Um, I got hired by my first law enforcement agency, and that's kind of where it all began.
Okay, well let's start there then. Like
Okay.
so, where did you work?
Um, I worked for a local municipality
Mm-hmm.
that was close to me. It was, I think, the second agency I applied for, but I think so. I will put it to you like this: I had to take a year absence from the military, so I ETS'd right at my 8 year mark, um, because they were going to deploy me again to Afghanistan right after I came off this 2 year. And I was like, how am I going to get a job? You know, I'm
Right.
so that's when I ETS'd and took a year break, and then I kind of came back in. But this local municipality, they had a SWAT team, and um, it was something that I was looking forward to. I did some training prior to going to the police academy because I was hired, and then I was working there for a few months while I was waiting to go to the police academy. So I was doing background checks and training with the SWAT team and some other things that they had me do.
Okay. Um, so like I know your situation is kind of like I know there's like stuff you can talk about and stuff that you can't. But well, I guess you could just like start off by talking about like, hey, what happened like once you got in to the police force, like how or the local municipality, like how did that like how did you get what did you want to do with your law enforcement career?
I I just wanted to fulfill a purpose, right? You have that purpose and you feel that mission and you believe in it and all that stuff. And I think that's kind of what the protector side of me wanted to do was go out and continue to serve and help others. And it was like a legit thing. Like when people ask me, they're like, well, why'd you do it? And I tell them, they're like, no, everybody says that, right? They want to serve and protect and they want to do better and they want to help people. Like everybody says that, but it's like, a legit thing for a person like me. And that's what we're brought up on having that purpose, that mindset, and transferring knowledge too. Because I feel like coming back from combat and all the different teams and all the specialties that I've worked with, I learned a lot. And me being able to pass on those kind of things, I felt like would help me.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you're around a bunch of rock stars and they're
Yeah,
here, and
yeah,
you get brought up to that speed and level,
yeah,
it's very humbling.
yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so you get into law enforcement, no big deal. Like you've been out of the army now for a year,
Mm,
give or take.
it's less than that. I mean, I went straight, and if I go to the year, now I'm working for another agency
Oh dang,
because
okay.
yeah, it didn't work. It didn't work out, but
It didn't work out.
and I'll tell you the reason why it didn't work out. The SWAT team commander at the time was a prick, and he called me out saying that I never deployed to combat. I've never done anything, even though I've never really talked about it. He just
Oh,
knew
it's
that
been
I
like
was.
DD 214.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I got a combat action badge, and I mean, what else do I need to show you? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I didn't get my CIB. My bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that he kind of called me out on it, and after hearing it so much, because he was just that kind of guy that it's my way or the highway, especially when you're talking about SWAT and stuff like that.
Right.
It's the old way. This is what he was
Dinosaur.
trained to do. Instead of learning something new and trying to implement newer tactics, we kind of were, button heads. And I just left it alone and just hearing it and just continuing to hear it. I just finally told him, you know, just back up off me, man. I've got nothing to prove to you. I didn't come in and say, oh, well, you haven't done this in your career. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what it kind of came down to is um, that personality conflict.
Hmm.
And of course, him and the chief are really close. So who's the chief going to want to deal with? Me, who's a 1 year guy, or his guy who's been there for, 14, 15 years at that point?
Yeah, makes sense.
You know?
Unfortunately. really, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I
So
mean,
you move on. Where do you move on to?
I went to a campus law enforcement, so working at a hospital pretty
Okay.
much because I was getting blackballed for a long time. Um,
So
I
this guy
couldn't.
had reach.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could not for the life of me. I applied at this point during that time I was working there and beforehand, I think 50 agencies, and I couldn't get a job.
Oh man.
So it was really difficult, and it's very discouraging. I mean, there were times where I was like, maybe law enforcement ain't for me. Maybe this is not my calling. Maybe it's something else. And I just stuck with it. My first wife at the time was not happy with our marriage, and I joined the guard again and was ramping up for another deployment, and she was like, "Nope, see you later."
Hmm.
So,
Well, that sucks.
and this is, me trying to transition into this new job and trying to hold myself together, and then dealing with that. Um, I was lucky that I met my second wife, and she's been with me ever since, supported
So,
me thick and thin. So,
so to put it in perspective for people listening, right? Like we went from 18 years old, we graduate high school, we joined the guard, go do a deployment during probably one of the spiciest
yeah,
kickoffs to any like
yeah,
insurgency ever in history. And you watch a lot of people die,
yeah,
and you come home, you're having a hard time dealing with that. Your marriage is starting to come apart. You go law enforcement, that doesn't work. Or before that, you end up doing 2 years on the border,
yeah,
doing like counter border stuff, um, where you're seeing a lot more stuff, a lot more of the world's darkness because
yeah.
trafficking is a big deal. Um, and now, you know, you've tried to make your way into a law enforcement agency, work your way up into SWAT to
Hmm.
make a bigger impact, and then you end up leaving. The guy that's in charge just says, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to blacklist this guy," and so you end up going back into the guard,
Yeah.
and now you're about to go do another deployment, and your
Mhm.
wife leaves you.
Yeah.
And this is all in 8 years.
Yeah.
That's a crazy short amount of time for all that to happen.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I still live with like some regrets. Like my best friend, he died in '07 in Bakaba. He was blown up. Um, and my first wife kind of forced me his and him kind of apart. Like we were really close, and um, it was it was just ridiculous. Like over some money, over over some money, and it was just, you know what I'm saying. So I had that weighing on me, and then her, and it just it was a very stressful time, and
Now you're going right back into it. Are you going to Iraq or Afghanistan this time?
um, that was an Afghan.
All right. Well, let's talk about that.
It never materialized.
No,
No. So I got ramped up and ready to go, and um, it never happened.
that's crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's good, I guess, but
I mean, I've been called up 3 times and nothing happened. You know?
really,
Oh yeah, 3 times. I got ramped up, trained up, ready to go, and stand down.
man,
So,
that's crazy. Okay, so what happens next?
um, so eventually, I wound up at the sheriff's office.
Okay,
They took a chance and hired me. I worked there. They start you off where they're kind of like the military, the needs of the sheriff's office.
right.
So at the time, they needed bodies in the courthouse. So I was working courthouse security, working as a bailiff in courtrooms and stuff like that. And at one point, we had a SRT team for the judicial system, and I actually took charge of that and became the SRT team leader and training these guys and teaching them what I knew and what I learned, and then we would work with SWAT. So it's kind of my intro to how to lead a team, if that makes sense, on the civilian side, because it's different. Dealing with the military, you know that. Dealing with the military versus now I'm training dudes that carry guns, but it's the civilian side, so it's not the same. You can't just use the same tactics, so you have to modify tactics and different stuff like that. So it's kind of my intro to that, and basically starting what I would call maybe active shooter for me, learning that, understanding it, and teaching these guys that as well. Because if we had that, that would be the case in a courthouse. It would be an active shooter
Gotcha. Yeah.
scenario. So,
What's the craziest thing that you saw, like doing the security, like in a courthouse? Like, I'm sure you saw some crazy stuff.
I mean, I've seen inmates do stupid stuff like jumping up and trying to fight bailiffs or trying to rush the judge or something like that. Just the normal stuff like that. But like, it's even crazier out on the streets, man. I've encountered a lot of crazy out there that I never thought I'd encounter, honestly. Um, but in the courthouse, it's just you get inmates in the back and you have to feed them, which
Oh,
is something I hated because they're always like trying to scam over and trying to get you to give them extra food and stuff like that. And you have to play everything by the rules because once they figure out they can get over on you, that's it. They're going to try it every time. So you got to play tough, deal with honestly kids. Some of these guys are kids.
right.
So
Okay, so now you're a bailiff. Like, what's next on Sarge's career path track?
so I applied for SWAT. I
Hmm.
was there was 7 positions, and I was number one on their list, um, and I didn't get chosen. Out of the 8 people that applied, I didn't get chosen, even though I was the number one candidate. I was like, okay, I'll brush it off. I'll try it again. When they open up again, and a position opened up that I was really interested in. It's working with the FBI on their joint terror task force. So I'd
Hmm.
still be a deputy, but I get, now I'm with those guys, right? And I have this background working with federal agencies and stuff at the time, and I just changed from the 11B over to during this time. I decided I wanted to do the MP thing, see how that turns out since I'm in law enforcement, right? Um, so I switch over to that, and I kind of go through the process, and it's like the process is there's a board, there's a test, and then they select the candidates. There's 3 of us for one position. 2 of us made it down to the final, and it was a Navy guy that I was competing against, which is kind of ironic. Dude's never deployed. He's never done anything dealing with a joint terror task force or even, has any idea how to understand those kind of concepts, especially in a deployed environment. And he got picked. I was number one, mind you, again, and he got picked. So I figured out right away it was more of a good old boy system, I guess, if you want to call it that, with this sheriff's office and that former sheriff. He's no longer the sheriff there anymore, but it was a good old boy system. It's about who you knew, and I didn't know anybody. I was just kind of coming in there fresh. So, yeah, I got passed up on a lot of things. I applied for patrol, couldn't get out to patrol, even though they had open positions, and it was just like a battle, man. And it was very discouraging until one day I ran into one of our court clerks, and her nephew was a sheriff of another county next to us. She's like, "Oh, you should apply with him. He'll hire you. You're a great dude. You know your stuff. Give it a shot." And that's what I did. Got hired and just kind of continued that career. I was out in patrol. That's where I started. I got SWAT. I was on probation for about 9 months. Usually it's about a year.
Right.
And your FTO phase, it's usually about 4 months. They try to do 16 weeks FTO, but since I have the experience I went through um, and kind of got fast tracked, if that makes sense. So
Right.
I was
Right.
done with FTO in about 6 weeks.
Oh wow.
And then I
Okay.
was out on my own on a shift and rolling.
So how long? So all right, cool. So where is the National Guard? Like, how is that interacting with or coinciding with your law enforcement career?
It's not, man. I'm just doing the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. I get called up for training. During this time, I became a range guy, so I was running ranges. Um, I was running CQB courses. I was running what else? I got picked up for Master Gunner, but I didn't go Master Guns. I wanted to go Small Arms Master Gunner. So they just kind of put me in a limbo status, just
Hmm.
running ranges. So during that time, I was doing some competition shooting for the state, which they call the Governor's 20. And I was doing that. That's just pretty much my like National Guard career is either deploying for hurricanes or just training, getting picked up to go for new training, new, the, what do you call it? When you bring something new to a unit.
Oh, the
Like
test.
when we were bringing shotguns, the new shotguns that, are bolt action and
So you're
the,
doing what like a National Guard unit should be doing. You should
yeah,
be serving the state as the state needs you to. Right?
which
So,
that kind of started halting my deployments. Like I just
right.
kind of went on a hiatus and until I got deployed in 2018, which was my last deployment.
All right. So in between 2008 and 2018, right? Like you got on with the current agency that you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
You're able to actually finally start getting out there
Yeah.
and making a splash. So
Yeah.
how does that career take off? And
So this is 2014. So all this is like a couple years. I did almost 3 years at one agency at the campus agency. Then the first sheriff's office was about 2 years when I left, and now we're, I guess, on this new one that I was with until last June.
and you've already met Mrs. Angry Sarge,
Yes.
right? And married and all that cool stuff.
Yeah, we're working on our second child. I have two children, one boy and one girl. So there's a lot. There's like a big gap, and I know I'm sorry. It's. I guess I'm just focused on the job and all that
No,
stuff.
dude, no, it's good. Like, because I mean, well, the only reason I asked is because, for timeline
Yeah,
and context, because like when you come, I mean, I haven't been divorced, but I know a lot of guys that have, and I know it sucks their soul out, whether
yeah,
regards to how things were or weren't.
yeah,
So like that recovery period. So like you found like, you and Mrs. Sarge, you guys met, started developing a life as you're moving forward in these
yeah. So,
careers.
so the funny thing is she's from Ohio. She's Cleveland area. You she came down because she was doing her what do you call it? She's medical, so she was doing her hands-on, I guess, her OJT stuff. Yeah, residency, if you want to call it that, down here. So we kind of met online, and we went out once, and she decided she liked me. I don't know why. Feel sorry for her all the time, but we stuck together, and this was around 2010 when we got married. So this is 2009. I met her at the end of 2009 and kind of moved on from there. So she's been with me. She's been my rock. She's pushed me to be better because before her, I didn't even have a college degree. and
Right.
now I've got a master's. So
That's a lot of work.
yeah, she's pushed me to be better. So I'm thankful for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and is there anything in the next like I don't know like 8 years that are really like you want to focus on, or do you want to get to that
Um,
deployment?
yeah, I mean, I'll tell you about my SWAT deal, how that happened. I became SWAT in 2015. I basically tried out, and with no question, they're like, "Yep, bring him on. This is our guy right here." And it just kind of took off from there. I went to my first.
I
Go
gotta
ahead.
ask, man.
Sure.
I'm sorry, but like, so do you think, like, in hindsight, looking back, like, I know a lot of guys kind of skip over this, but like, I'll use myself as an example. I was not the polished person that I am now coming out of war, right? Now
Yeah.
I didn't go through a divorce,
Hmm.
anything like that, but like I could only imagine how that would add to turmoil.
Right.
Um, do you think, like looking back, yeah, do you think you and how maybe you were do you think you helped yourself, or do you think you kind of hurt yourself a little bit like with these other law enforcement agencies?
No, I mean, I don't think I hurt myself at all. And the only reason why I say that is, did I deal with my issues? I didn't really know that I had issues, to be honest with you. I knew I had post traumatic stress and a little bit of an anger problem sometimes, but I was smart about it. Whenever I get mad, I just walk away. That's it. I don't take it further than that. But uh, I, I think honestly that the timing that worked out was because I wasn't at the right place. You know what I'm saying?
Just like don't think you were what they were looking for, maybe.
Well, like I said, the problem that I had even in the beginning was I was dealing with a commander that was stuck in his way. Even though the SWAT team was like, "Yeah, dude, we need him. Dude's smart. He handles the scenarios and handles CQB like a pro. Like he's done this before." And there's no instruction. Like I'm just going in and training and just showing what I know. So
So they
deal,
slept on you. Okay, I was
yeah,
just asking me because like you never know. Like I know like I used to rub people the wrong way
yeah, no,
um, back in the day, and I've polished myself up a little bit more from then.
I,
But yeah, I didn't know. But so well, whatever
yeah,
they were stuck in their ways and they
yeah,
passed on you, and now the new agency is like, you
yeah,
know what? Yes.
yeah. I mean, everybody could see it. I started out in patrol at, we'll say, the hospital, right?
Mhm.
And I was in charge of their SRT team there. I mean, I didn't. That was like the shortest time I was a part of like a SRT team because it was about a week. I was getting ready to stand it up and then start the training, and it got nixed. They cut the budget for it, and that was kind of the end of it. So I think it was the first part was ego driven because I made him look bad, and I was a threat to him. So, and I understand. I understand that now. You know, it took a while. I was pretty bitter about it. I'm not gonna lie, because I felt like,
Like you got shorted.
yeah,
You know?
like I didn't get a fair shake.
Right.
You know, so
So you got your fair shake
yep,
eventually.
yep.
So how was that?
I
You
mean, it
got
was good.
was it everything you wanted it to be?
No,
Oh,
and I'll tell you why. Because a lot of the problem is SWAT training is different. Okay. When you start talking about how you train dudes to clear rooms and things like that, they're so stuck on the old way of there's a hostage, right? So you're going to dig corners, you're going to do this. And I'm of the mindset that's fine. But in reality, we're going for a barricaded subject, right? We make entry, we breach, we're looking for dude. We're not looking for, you know, a hostage taker that's going to be sitting there with a gun to his family member's head or something like that. So I think the situation is more dynamic, and that's why I'm looking for fighters first, hiders second, you know? And that's
Makes
something that I learned over time during that first deployment. It was I learned a lot during that. So taking that with me and kind of sharing that experience hurt me a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it hurt because they were still stuck on that old by the book. It's kind of like taking the army and saying, okay, we're not going to worry about the Center for Army Lessons Learned, and we're not going to update any TMs or any FMs. We're just going to take it. This is how we learn to do mount CQB, and that's it. That's the end of it. There's no, well, there's a better way. We're not going to update our training. And it was evident when we went to some training sites and they were like, hey, no, that's not the way you do it. And then they're looking at me like I'm going to fix everything, and I can't. I have no real rank. I mean, I'm a corporal, but I have no real pull at that time. So I think that was the biggest thing. And then plus, being a smaller county, we had a part-time SWAT team. So I'm doing my patrol plus, any other functions that I have, and then doing the training part-time, which we try to hit, once a month and all that. So it just wasn't what I thought. I was like, oh, I'm going to be full-time SWAT guy. This is going to be great. And we're going to be like Dallas SWAT training and all this, be on TV. You get this false look at it when you start looking at other agencies, especially the full-time teams. And you're like, oh man, that dude's jacked. I want to be like him and work out all day and train and shoot and do all this stuff. And then I found out the hard way that I had to do it all on my own.
Right.
Because we didn't have the budget. We had a little bit of money to train with, but it came down to you. How bad do you want it, and what are you going to do to keep your spot? Because there's going to be somebody new coming in that's going to want to take your spot.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I could imagine it'd be like a little underwhelming. Like you have it all built up in your head, and then it's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But okay,
so that's what it was. I mean, I won't lie. I think I really got some good training out of it. I trained with Ronin tactics. I've done asymmetrical gunfighter with Tier Tactical. I've worked with Point Blank. I've worked with a lot of different people that I never would have been able to get training from on my own that was paid for because I have a TTPOA membership. Which is Texas Tactical Police Officers Association. So
nice. Yeah, we have the OTOA up here in Ohio.
Yeah.
But all right, cool. So anything else before 2018? Or do you want to get into it?
Yeah. I mean, I've been through some crazy stuff, but the biggest thing that really hit me, I was in a shooting in October of 2017 on duty.
Oh.
And this happened, of course, right before I deploy. So the courts are like hung up because I'm gone because they can't process anything. I was cleared. Texas Rangers cleared me within 3 days. They did their full investigation and made sure everything was good, all the ballistics, because there was a concern that I shot his spouse. And it turned out that he actually was the one that shot her. And not only that, he was trying to kill me as well. So, yeah, crazy.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can.
What's on?
If you got anything you want to ask about it, man, I'm open. It's already gone. It's clear.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about it, cool. If not, man, we can skip past it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the reason or how it happened was I was supervisor that night. My sergeant was off. I, being the corporal, was supervising my troops, and we had gotten 3 previous calls to go out there dealing with, him seeing people with rifles and flashlights and lasers and all this stuff. So he's seeing things. I've already been to his house, and this is a little background. I've already been to his house for him abusing his spouse, who is elderly disabled.
Hmm.
She's bedridden, and I've arrested him for those charges. And I don't know how he keeps getting out, but he kept getting out. So this fourth time, my deputy arrives on scene. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna tell my deputy, hey, tell him to stop calling 911 or we're going to take him to jail. This is the fourth time. I'm done with it. We got more important stuff going on that we're dealing with than him seeing stuff.
Right.
So as soon as I show up, my deputy tells me, he's like, hey, man, I don't know what's going on, but did you hear that? And I was like, hear what? Because I'm hopping out of my vehicle. I've got music playing. It's late. I just got done with a theft call prior to this. And I was just kind of trying to get all that nonsense because I had been dealing with this call for over an hour because I had to leave and go figure out what's going on over here with this guy. So I've been going back and forth to this call to try to get it done. A simple theft report. And I was like, no, I didn't hear that. And he's like, I heard a gunshot. I think it was across the street. So I reach in, grab my patrol rifle, pull it out, go to sling it up. And I turned on my flashlight, shined it across the street because it's dark out in the county where I'm at. So as soon as I shine it, I hear a shot behind me. And I'm like, that's behind us. So I just dip back and go, and I take off running. I see that this is a trailer.
What? Yeah, running towards the gunfire?
Yeah, towards the gunfire. So there's his house. Well, it's a trailer. He's got a trailer, and he's got a little garage type covered area where he parks his truck. So trailer's over here. I'm trying to get it on camera. Trailer's over here. The shed's over here. And I kind of run around it, start pieing the corner, and I'm yelling at the guy to drop the weapon because I could see it. He's pointing outside the back door of the trailer. Yeah, carport. Thanks, Tech. Appreciate it. So he's pointing this lever action. I want to say it was a 30-06 out the door, and he cranks off another round. And it's not toward me, but I'm still yelling at him, drop it and all this stuff. And he dips it down. I remember seeing this. He dipped it down, charged it. And I was like, the last thing that I remember seeing was my kid standing over my grave crying. And my brain was like, no, and started giving me fire commands, like straight up. It was, I'm set. I flip it on semi. Mine was select fire. And I remember my brain just saying, fire, fire, fire. And I just launched 10 rounds in that direction. I actually, oddly enough, I shot the rifle out of his hand, even though all he had out was the rifle. He took a round in his gut because he's hiding inside the house using the door as cover. Like the little sheet metal, I guess.
Right.
And I fired 10 rounds, and I kind of start pieing because in my mind, I'm going to go ahead and start clearing that door. And I had to do an override because if I treated this like combat, I'd just clear. I'd finish him off at the door, finish his son who's on the couch with a rifle, like kind of diagonal to him. But I had to remember
you have two people.
Yeah. So two. And I had to kind of in my mind say, this is not overseas. This is not combat. It's not the same. So you need to deal with it differently. I couldn't just fire indiscriminately and just drop people. Right. So I get him outside, do all that stuff. My partner, he's kind of sitting with him. I go clear the house after I put up my rifle because at this point, I'm not going to take my rifle inside the house, which I don't know why, but I was like, I'm just going to put it up. He's saying it's only his wife. I've been out here many times before. There's really nobody besides these three people in this house all the time, every time I've been out here. So my mindset was like, okay, I just shot this thing. It's evidence. Let me put it up. Right. So I draw my pistol. I go in, I clear the house. I get to her first thing because she's, as soon as you come in, you make a right, and there's the laundry room and a bathroom and a bedroom. So I see her laying on the bed and I see blood coming from her face. So I'm like straight to her, do a quick check, push out, and I'm telling the deputy, hey, she's shot in the face. We're gonna need a bird. So he calls a bird in, and the medics by this point are already arriving. They're like, did you clear the house? I said, no, stand by. So I went back in, cleared the rest of the house, and then they came in and took her. They pulled her out and stuffed her on a bird. She was transported to a trauma one. And that was kind of the end of it, except me saying on the video, because I had the body cam footage too. One day I might release it, but I remember telling the PD guy that showed up because my no other county elements have shown up yet, just a local PD guy that was the closest. And I was like, dude, I need to contact my attorney. That was the first thing going through my head is like, I'm about to go to prison, because this is during the time where we're being crucified for doing what we do.
So did she make it?
Yeah, she made it. She lived. She actually, during the lawsuit, I was sued. So I'll put this out there. I wasn't charged because it was a good shoot. Not only did the Texas Rangers say it was a good shoot, but the grand jury did too. And I was sued for $500,000 because she said that I was the one that shot her because she was covering for her husband. So she recanted her statement saying that her husband shot her and then said that I did.
Wait,
so
the woman whose life you saved sued you.
Yes. Well, and the husband too, the actual offender, the guy that tried to kill me.
Only in America.
So, yeah, it's part of the job. Unfortunately, that's why you have insurance and all that stuff, attorneys, because you have to doing this job. But I went to court. Well, we were starting the process of going to court on it, and he wound up dropping the case. Dude is actually free. He's not seen a day in jail, which in Texas would be 99 to life or death because it's a first degree capital felony, and he's free.
How?
I don't know. The DA sucks. I don't know.
Do you even have a DA? Like, this seems like a no-brainer.
No. So I don't even know what happened, and it's kind of like the motivating factor for me leaving that agency because there were some issues. They fought with me about the Medal of Valor, which, if you watch the video and what I did, warrants the Medal of Valor, or at the minimum, a life-saving award.
So
it didn't happen.
So, okay. Yeah, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like I could sit here and tell stories all day of just craziness and all this stuff, but I've had a bad shake a lot of my life.
Dude, you need to get out of Texas.
It ain't gonna matter, I don't think.
I think it will. But okay, so you end up leaving there, and then you're still in the Guard.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was deployed in 2018. I was going to Afghan. and OEF. We'll just say OEF. And during our train up, right before we left, we were doing a mock mission that we are preparing for,
Mm-hmm.
and I blew out my hip and a bunch of other stuff. Like now, I've got so many things wrong with me that I don't know. It was easy for me to get 100%. I'll just say that.
Right.
Very easy. Because I am almost 2 times the points that you need to get 100% disability.
Yeah. So we have
So,
that in common.
yeah.
Yeah.
And being on active duty at Fort Hood, because I got medevaced back. They were going to keep me in El Paso, our originating, what do you call it? Our origin, point of origin, where we
Mhm.
deployed from. But I requested to be closer to home. So I went down to Fort Hood because my parents live right outside the base. And I spent the next 3 years fighting with them, man. And when I tell you fighting for a wounded warrior, somebody that deployed who's been to combat and wasn't hurt, just shamming, like I seen a dude blow off his hands because he thought it was a smart idea to take a hammer to the back of a 25 Mike, and he's there in the same place as me.
Mm.
It just things like that were nuts. Like losing my TRICARE, even though I was active duty for 8 months, and having to file a congressional. They denied my MSM because I wasn't a high enough rank, which I got my MSM, but I was through the National Guard. And it was submitted and kicked back to approve just like that. No time. So just all this stuff. And they, Fort Hood, the Wounded Warrior Program, which they called the WTU back then. It was a Warrior Transition Unit, and now they call it the SRU, which is the Soldier Readiness Unit, which is a mixture of if you break your ankle messing around in the barracks room, you get sent to this unit where war fighters are, you know? So that's the whole command climate, the whole team, they didn't care about you at all. It was probably the worst treatment. You felt like you didn't have dignity to the point where I had to get, you know, who are they? The medical reps.
Oh.
That it's kind of like you're calling IG, but it's not. They're the hospital, and they had to get involved, and almost to the point where I was filing Article 134, which ruins commanders' lives under UCMJ.
Hmm.
Which he would have had an answer to the post commander. Like that, it was that serious because of the way that they were treating me. And I was like, I gave 21 years of my life to this country, deployed on multiple occasions, and this is how I get treated for for that service. It was tough, man.
Jeez. Okay. So what was the end result?
Uh, I pretty much just made it out.
So did you get retired?
Nothing.
You get your
Yeah, so I retired, and I retired medically as well. So of course, I'm not a high enough rank, so I don't get to see my retirement, but
hmm
it kind of gets that VA where they take it dollar for dollar.
Okay.
So you lose your retirement, whichever one's highest you get. Now, when I turn 57, I can apply for my retirement, but I can file for CRSC, which is combat related special compensation, which is what I'm in the process of doing. I have a Purple Heart that's sitting, I don't know if it's at division or it's on its way to NGB. I don't know the status yet, but I've got a Purple Heart on the way, I hope. It's already been denied once by active duty due to them saying that I wasn't seen by a medical professional. So a flight surgeon apparently isn't a medical professional because I have it. I have it for TBI.
Right.
I was hit in the face with a brick and shrapnel and stuff. So because I wasn't medevaced to the cash, it it wasn't anything. If that makes sense.
No,
So,
yeah, like I think it wasn't until 2009 till we started giving Purple Hearts to cats that were non-medevac IED survivors, right?
yeah,
Like, so that TBI, man, is dangerous and it sneaks up on people for sure. I
yeah,
mean, I get it. But okay, so you eventually you got flushed out the pipe, you got your
yeah,
retirement coming,
yeah.
or your at least your disability and all
Yeah,
that. And now you've left the law enforcement career behind.
not 100%.
Not 100%. Okay,
No,
so where are we today? Like, what is it that Angry Sarge does with his life today?
I'm still in Ellie. I can't obviously I can't say or disclose or even show my face because I want to retire. I've only got a few more years and then I can retire from the civilian job and just do whatever I want to do.
Nice, nice.
So
Well, let's
that's
get into that, man, because that's like the next thing. Like, I really want to kind of dive into, spend a little bit of time
yeah.
on. Um, what the mask, man? You gotta let us know, like, what is up with the mask.
So during the whole process when I was trying to find some peace and understanding and accepting the things that I did in my career, I was really kind of not happy. I couldn't say that I was proud of the things that I've done throughout my life because I was just so bitter from me having to constantly fight with everybody to get things that I earned. It wasn't things that I'm asking for because I feel entitled. It's things that I earned. So while I was going through this process, I started thinking and kind of deep diving into samurai culture, which
Hmm.
is the mask. It's a oni, so it's a demon, and I think this really suits my persona and understanding like the duality of man. Right, the person behind the mask, I'm this humble guy, real nice dude, and all that stuff, and this is my demon that I'm showing the world of all the things that I've had to do. If that makes sense. So it's
Yeah,
kind of the duality of that warrior.
hmm, that's pretty deep.
I mean, it hits right. It makes sense. It connects, and I think that's why you got a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I connect with, Vikings, or I connect with knights, or Spartans, or anything like that." Everybody kind of has this warrior mentality that they kind of mold themselves, or they feel like they connect with. And for me, just the samurai. If you look at the army values and you put the seven virtues of Bushido together, it's very close. I know I sent you a picture of that earlier so you could kind of see, and it kind of maps out the things that are important to me that I follow, and being sincere and humble and compassionate and living with honor and courage, all these things that kind of fit me.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I think it's pretty cool, the similarities between, like something like as simple as like army values, which is
Right.
leadership, like
Yep.
loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage, right? And how
Yep.
that aligns so symmetrically with, the samurai.
Right. And
Oh,
I will tell you, it was hard. Like, think about it. Think about being this young kid that had nothing to hold on to. And then you join the army and you get these seven army values because they were around then.
mhm.
Leadership was around. There was this whole change. And, getting the warrior ethos later on in my career and having that understanding and really believing in it. And then in the end, you see that you're nothing. You're just a piece of trash that they'll replace you. They'll get rid of you, though. You know what I'm saying? So having that hard, dealing with it from that side, I think, is really kind of what pushed me toward finding peace.
Well, on that note, did you find it?
I'm still working on it, but I feel like I've taken a lot of the bitterness away. Like every day, I remind myself that I did something. I did something worthwhile. Whether anyone else feels that way about it, it doesn't matter. Like me, it's
I think
good.
most people that are going to watch this, they're going to realize, very quickly that like you did way more than most are even ever willing to do. To be a war fighter, and on top of that, to be a civil servant, where you're protecting people from people,
Right.
um, and your fight, through what would even like I think most people would agree is like unfair circumstances, to be resilient, to keep pressing through,
Right.
and having that warrior spirit, you know. Dude, I think you've like I'm impressed is the wrong word. Like I'm humbled, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But that's why I share it. I mean, that's why I'm humbled because I went through such a hard time. Even the end of that agency, me fighting with them over a modified uniform. They didn't want to give me a modified uniform in the beginning. And then come to find out after I left, one of the lieutenants was trying to get me fired while I was still on orders, active duty orders, which I was like, at one point I was like, I wish they would have because I would have sued them. I
What are
was
you trying
well.
to get them to have as a uniform, like a gi?
No, so what it is we were wearing outer carriers that looked like our uniform, and since I
Yeah.
have hip problems and back and all that, carrying around what I used to carry around, which my belt fully loaded weighs almost 20 pounds because I'm carrying tourniquets and knives and extra handcuffs, and I carry 3 magazines, my pistol, anything, lights, radios, all this stuff. So when you add it all up, it's heavy, which is why officers have back problems. So what we were working on was a Molly style carrier, which the second time when I was coming back, they gave me a raid vest and was like, "Here, wear that until we get what you're supposed to get." And then they're like, "Well, now you have to buy your own pouches." And I was like, "It's your job to supply those things for me, right?
Right.
If you didn't want to supply it, you could have told me and I'd go out and buy it myself. But I don't want to hear any complaints about what I carry because
Right.
I'm paying for it." So it's through that, and sitting in the office and then saying, well, if I didn't want to work somewhere, I wouldn't work anywhere, and that just kind of set me off. I was done with it. Coming back and then taking my rifle away that I was in a shooting with, that that kind of started this chain of events because I came back, that firearm was released out of evidence, so it was sitting in the locker waiting to be reissued out, but they already reissued it to somebody. Somebody messed up all my parts on it because I'm a weirdo, so I shoot rifle left hand and
Ah,
pistol right hand because I'm left eye dominant. So all this was set up ambi for me. And then, my butt stocks messed up. They messed up my sling, my grip, just all this stuff. It started this chain. And then they pretty much removed me from the SWAT team without me saying, "Hey, I can't do the job anymore." So it's just like this whole chain of events that made me very angry. And I said some things and I'm okay with it. Even to this day, I don't regret saying what I said because I think it was the right thing to say. And then they were like, "Well, you feel like you're entitled," and all. I was like, "Look, I don't feel entitled. I'm asking you for a couple things that you can accommodate for, but you choose not to. So just to give up somebody with that much experience, that much leadership, it, it disgusted me. So I was like, I'm gone. I didn't even give him 2 weeks. I just left.
Hmm.
I was like, here's your stuff. You know, I wanted to retire from here. I wanted to be the sheriff one day, but I get it. I understand. So
So you can't really talk about what you're doing right now, or you just can't talk about exactly where you're doing it.
well, I can't talk about where.
So what
So
are you doing?
so I moved, which is still in the works. I moved from a patrol function to more of a civil function because I
Okay.
think I'm done with being put in positions where I'm not going to be taken care of.
Right.
I work my butt off. I just rather just do something that's more. I won't say it's easier. You can always run into a problem because you still have a badge and a gun, but I think moving into another realm with another agency is the best fit for me. Just so I can finish out, retire, and who knows, I may enjoy it and promote up or whatever. But I definitely want to finish knowing that I completed all that time that I spent. Because 14 years, you just don't throw it away.
Mm-mm.
You just don't, especially if you get the chance to go back. We just go finish it. I can claim my military time, thankfully. After 5 years, once you vest, you can claim up to 5 years of military time. So that'll push me to 24, 25 years total and just retire and do the training stuff. So
Man.
that's my goal. I want to be an instructor. I mean, it's kind of why I'd love to come out and hang out with you guys and actually do it.
Man, we'd love to have you anytime, man. Anytime.
It's a goal. It's a goal. I know we talked about August, but I'm hoping everything crosses and goes well, and maybe we can make that happen.
Right on. Well, look, I think we covered everything, man. I mean, honestly, like we've talked a lot. I mean, but like I don't. I'm genuinely like humbled by your story, man. Like it's what a case of like what a perfect case that you've made for being the ball and not the ground, right?
Yep.
Like you just kept bouncing,
Yep.
staying resilient and building up that energy, and I'm sure Mrs. Angry Sarge is an amazing rock star of a human being too.
Oh, it's on her. Like I told her, I said, look, I'm at the point where I'm retired. If you want to go back home, if you can find a job and want to go back home, I'll go.
Right.
Because she's been there for me through it all, through all those hard times, through all the mobilizations and training and me missing birthdays and all this other stuff, the job, the shooting, all the calls that I've been to that I would come home just wanting to pull out my hair because I don't understand how evil people can be. You just don't get it. Just being the type of dude you are, you've seen evil, evil, but to come back and case in point, I dealt with a case that there was a woman that had a crying baby. She couldn't get it to stop crying, so she decided the best way to get this baby to stop crying is to stick it in boiling water. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff that I've dealt with where it's like you have to step back and not harm that person, even though every fiber in your body is like, this person just needs to be dealt with. You know, it's very difficult. and seeing all the things that I've seen and done, especially in my career, the times that I've I had people try to kill me or say they were going to kill me, but I got the drop on them and stuff like that. Clearing houses by yourself, which is an absolute no no. Clearing buildings by yourself, all the sketchy things that I've done, but has taught me how to keep myself safe. And I've passed that on to, other patrol officers. Um, it's good and bad, man. Good and bad.
Well, dude, I think, you know, on behalf of the universe, man, thank you for what you've done for our country and for, the people inside of our country. So
Appreciate it.
yeah, thank you. Um, and that's why I started this interview, why I started going down the interview route is because there's so many cats out there that their story needs to be heard.
Yeah.
And there's nobody telling it. And dude, the people that you will impact or that you've already impacted in a positive way, man, it means something, and dude, I'm just honored that you let me bring you on to tell your story tonight. And
Well, I will say you're the first person that I've dove this deep in. I do have an interview that I did with DLD After Dark, and I kind of talked about some of my law enforcement experiences. So if you guys get off here and you want to hear some other stuff, uh, it's up on my channel. So check me out if you want to see more.
Where can people find you at?
I am on Instagram, angry_Sarge, and I think my tag on YouTube for the channel is Angry Sarge G01, which G01 is my old call sign, green one.
Green one.
Yeah.
That's
Green
awesome.
one. So we had three teams, right? Well, we had two. In mine, I had a red team and a blue team. And then the green was the one in positive control. So you had blue one, red one, and then on back based on how many people you had in that squad. So that's how we kind of layered it, and I've kept that for quite some time. So
kind of cool and kind of scary and kind of ominous. So yeah, it works as well. Well, look, man, is there anything you want to leave the universe with?
I think the biggest thing, if you get anything from this interview, is that you can come from nothing. I grew up in poor. I grew up in really bad situations. I grew up in other people's homes. They didn't care for me. They abused me. They treated me like I was a number. They treated me like they got paid to have me in their house, and then going to institutions and all that stuff. Like, you can do whatever it is you want to do. You can go out and be that protector. And I urge people to just do the right thing and take care of each other. That's what I preach in my community. And it's evident. If you come over to my community, we had someone that fell on some hard times, and we gathered up money and took care of them, because that's what you do. You take care of each other. Even if you don't know that person, it doesn't take anything to be kind. It really doesn't.
Be a good egg.
Yeah. And it doesn't take anything to be humble and listen. Like, that's the other thing. Like, I'm all about learning, and I want to learn from everybody. I don't care if you have no experience in it or you figure out a way to cheat code it, if that makes sense. But you figured it out. I want to know, because I want to soak that in, because it could be something that benefits me. Or it could be something that says, okay, well, I get it, but that's not the way you should do it. And then I can transfer my knowledge or someone else's knowledge to that person.
So, do you want to plug your academy or no?
What, my Discord?
Or, well, that other stuff you do,
Freedom Crew University.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so in case people don't know, I kind of entered the 2A spectrum because of COVID, and I didn't feel like I had a purpose or anything like that. So I kind of entered this realm and became a builder. I build, polymer 80s or whatever. I don't want to say anything to get the channel banned, but rifles, all that stuff. So I like building, and I'm that's kind of where I got my start. So the Freedom Crew University is a place that you can come and be around other builders, other people that have have done it, and they can tell you how to, modify your firearms, build it, whatever. And then we have this cool guy in the comments, Shogun Customs. He will actually, if you want him to, teach you how to be a stippler.
That's
So
pretty
if you like to customize your firearms and you want that as a business, that's the guy you want to talk to learn that from, because he has specific classes related to that as far as stippling and customizing your stuff. So it's something to think about. So Freedom Crew University, just type that into the search bar. You'll find us. I am one of the, I guess, marketers there. So that's what you see me post on Instagram or something like that. We kind of stopped because we're at a point where we weren't ready to handle any more people coming in, because we're trying to catch up on content and get that out. But that's one place that I'm at. I see Aegis is here. I hope you guys have a good time when you go there. Rod's a good dude. He was the first one to really believe in me and give me a coupon code. So if you need some gun cleaning stuff, make sure you use Angry Sarge and save you some money. But that's it.
I can't see any of the chat, man, for whatever reason. All I have is like a page with a ear and a sad face. Like
I see it, and I know we've missed a lot of comments, and I'm sorry, but I think getting the story out was very important.
Yeah, definitely. Like no, like so like when I do these interviews, I don't even pay attention to the chat anyways,
Right.
because I'm more focused on like, let's get your story out, like let's dive deep, and can't really do that if I can't anyways. I can't do that if I'm looking at like chat, because then I get shiny object syndrome, and I'll just shit. So
yeah, no, I kind of scroll. You've seen our lives where I'm like, if I'm doing this, it's because I'm looking at this.
right. I didn't even think to do that. I could have been on mine the whole time, right? But
no, I will tell you, I've got a TV with my other channel watching this at the same time, and I've got my phone watching it from my channel as well. So both my channels are watching.
I had to lift my whole technology package to a whole different room, man, on the fly. So I'm barely prepared. I look jaundiced, like I'm not, I swear. But
no,
look,
you're good.
To everybody in the side chat, that's been in there commenting, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching this.
Yeah, I had some.
Share it to your friends, and like it, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. We have things kind of in the works that we've been working on. A Patreon channel is already built and developed. We're just waiting to kind of launch it officially. But you watching these videos helps support us and people like us, and get the stories out that could help more people, and that's really what it's about. So thank you, Angry, for coming and sharing your story with us. I mean, we got deep. I almost feel like we might have to have you come back again.
I mean, just I think next time maybe I'll bring some videos and we can laugh about how people make very, I guess, dumb mistakes as a cop, and you're like, what are you doing? This isn't what I taught you,
Right.
So,
yeah, we could do that. We could spend hours doing that.
Oh my God, terrible amount of time.
Oh man. But once again, thank you very much for coming by. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for everybody out there that's watched this. You've got Angry Sarge's information. Give him a follow, like, comment, subscribe on his stuff.
I will tell you this, because I'm silly. and I've been kind of hyper focused on this interview. But if you go to my Instagram, angry_Sarge, and you pull up my bio, my link tree's in there. It has my Discord if you want to join our Discord. We talk about um, all kinds of stuff, building, um, carry options. We can talk about training if you want to bend my ear about gear purpose or anything like that. But I have the Discord. I've got all my links, my YouTube, my Facebook, which I'm not really on that much. So I'm sorry if you go there. Just a heads up. But that's probably the best way to get in contact with me. It's through IG.
Well, thanks again, man. And thanks
Yeah,
to
man.
everybody out there in the universe. And as always, stay safe, live free, and train hard. We'll see y'all in the next one.
Take it easy.